Alright everybody, welcome back. So today of course we are taking a look at one of these super rare jet event vehicles, which I'm willing to bet probably 95% of y'all have not seen, and that of course is the F-5A. I took a look at Thunderscale, and just keep in mind Thunderscale isn't 100% representative of the actual player base, but it is a good idea just to go ahead and get some margins from, and it was only played 7 times by Thunderscale users in the past month. And I'm not sure how much of that was me before I actually made this video. I think I remember playing 2 games in this before I actually got the Thunderscale stats, so it might have been played by only like 5 other times, which is kind of absurd. And there's a very good reason for that. You're basically paying $100 for just an F-5C without the premium bonus. I'll cover this in more detail later on, but you get the same flight model, the same kit, everything else. The only difference really is that you don't have a refueling probe on the front, but instead you earn basically half the Silver Lions and 50% less RP. But you get the privilege of spending $100 to get this. This is probably the most useless event vehicle that I can think of. For context, the F-5C pack normally is $65 now that it's rank 7, and if you get it on sale it's only $32. And considering that, you know, the Golden Eagles and premium time out of that is around like maybe 15 to 20 bucks, you can pick up the F-5C for, of course, the pack itself, $32, but the plane around $20-ish. And you get the exact same plane with much better Silver Lion and RP earnings that can also research the entire tree. And so it makes sense that like nobody would want to actually buy and use this aircraft. So it basically just turned into a collector's item really at this point, where it has a cool skin, I guess. That's the only reason I ground this back when the event was out. But this is the only event vehicle that I can think of where it's the exact same plane and the exact same tech tree. It is just there for no reason whatsoever. I'm really not sure what Gaijin was thinking when they added this aircraft. So if for whatever reason you decide that you want to collect this plane and that you go ahead and pick it up, if you already have the F-5C, which if you're thinking about getting a 10.3 F-5, just buy the F-5C. But if you already have it, it's going to play literally identical. The F-5 is a very ratty plane. It loves sticking at high speeds. It has very good thrust at those higher speeds. And so once you get to around Mach, it will love to sit there and retain the energy, even during turns, which is why you'll see F-5Cs and F-5As do a slow 180 for you, maintaining Mach the entire time, and then catch you. This makes it very meta for ARB because high-speed energy retention is one of the things that you look for out of a jet, while still maintaining some agility, right? So the combination of that high-speed energy retention, high-speed agility, and high-velocity guns makes this thing an exceptional dogfighter. Speaking of, the guns did actually get fixed this patch for the most part. They're still not exactly where I'd like them. I like it when literally every 20 or 30 mil one-shots, but they do reliable damage now, and you're not really going to have to worry about it. That is, of course, assuming you can actually catch the jet, so you don't have, an F-111 in front of you that goes ahead and throws himself into the ground instead of actually, giving you the kill. Speaking of catching, though, that is really the one downside to the F-5 airframe at this BR. It's just that it is a lot slower than a lot of the other planes. It maxes out at around like Mach 1.02, Mach 1.03 on the deck, and while that is not terribly slow, it is slower than most of the other planes. Of course, you do make up for that with energy retention, so if somebody starts turning, you're not going to have any issues catching up to them. But if it's something like an F-104, a MiG-21, a Phantom, anything else, if they just fly in a straight line, they will be able to get away from you. However, what you can do is just stick on their butt and point your nose at them, and any time they turn, they will bleed a little bit of speed and you'll be able to catch up to them. That's why you see all these F-5 players that will 180 for you and just sit there behind you, close enough to be somewhat of a threat, but not actually able to catch you. That is one of the things that the F-5 is good at. It just depends on who you're fighting. If they're very passive and they're flying in a completely straight line, you're just not going to be able to do much. They'll be able to get enough separation and eventually, turn around and try and go head on with you or whatever. You do get 2 countermeasure dispensers. The F-5A is actually the reason why the F-5C has countermeasures, as a matter of fact. It's the same airframe. For those of y'all who don't know, the F-5C is just a slightly modified F-5A that the US was using in Vietnam just to go ahead and help with export. It, of course, didn't actually use flares there, but the Taiwanese later used flares on their F-5As, and so that got applied to both the American F-5A and the F-5C. To be honest, that's probably for the better. I think an F-5C at 10.0 without flares would be both annoying to play and annoying to fight. I mean, imagine being in something like an F2 Saber and having to fight an F-5C. Oh my goodness. But I have seen a lot of people asking about that, so now you know. You, of course, get 60 countermeasures because of this. You get up to 30 pops depending on what you bring. In this case, I was mostly bringing flares just because the max you can see is 11.3, and I'm hugging the deck anyways 95% of the time, so I can just dodge all the radar missiles that way. If you do wish to climb, by all means bring chaff. You will still get 15 pops, which is usually enough. It's just with all the all-aspect missiles being thrown around and everything else, I like having the peace of mind of having twice as many pops at countermeasures personally. As for missiles, you only get access to the AIM-9Es, which are pretty basic. They are, of course, better than AIM-9Bs, but they're not going to be doing you any favors, and you won't be getting a ton of kills with these. They have the same range as the AIM-9J, but they only pull 11 Gs instead of 20, which, by the way, the stat card does lie. You see right there, the maximum G load for the AIM-9E is 11 Gs. And to be honest, most of the time, I've actually found more use using these to get people to turn than actually getting kills with them. But they are great for people that either aren't paying attention or are otherwise incapacitated. You know, for example, if you already went ahead and crit them. You can also lead the missile a little bit outside of the normal seeker head, so I find myself using that quite a bit, just because 11 Gs really isn't going to be pulling anything. You might get one okay turn out of it, and that's just about it. One thing to note is that the F5 really does not like getting slow. The thrust curves on the F5, C, and A do fall off pretty dramatically at low speed, which is why that acceleration at those lower speeds is so lackluster. You can see right here, I had to dip my nose down to get my speed back up, and it didn't really improve all that much in the first place. If you do get into a dogfight with somebody, you want to try and keep it at higher speeds for as much as possible, because there are actually quite a few aircraft that normally can't really outturn you, but if it goes on for long enough, can eventually beat you just because they have a better thrust-to-weight ratio than you do. At least they do at lower speeds. Remember, your thrust and your thrust-to-weight ratio is not static. It changes based on speed and fuel level. Those of y'all who played back when the F5 first came out may remember that it used to have an absolutely busted damage model. Now, of course, that did get changed, and it is nowhere near as incredible as the SC-25 that just survived a bomb exploding on its wing from getting shot off, but it still is relatively survivable. If you get hit by somebody, you are most likely going to die. I survived right there because I had a glancing blow, and then if you have your flaps still, you are able to make it back to base if you're missing your elevator. Most of the time, though, if you get hit by a missile, if it doesn't instantly kill you, it's going to set both your engines on fire, and you're just going to die anyways because you don't have EFS. So it's not the absolute tank monstrosity that it used to be, but it is just something to keep in mind. Sometimes you'll get lucky and make it back, but it's just like any other plane in that regard. The final application for the F-5A, of course, is for CAS, and at this point, to be honest, it's already been overshadowed. It's alright, but I mean, if you're going to be getting the F-5C anyways, it gets the exact same CAS loadouts, and there are much better options in the tech tree at the same BR. You know, something like the A7D can carry 6 Mavericks and 2 Hobos at 10.3 for only a little bit more in spawn point cost. You also have the A10 Late at 10.3, which can carry 6 of the Thermal Mavericks if you need something that works at night. This, of course, isn't bad. You can carry, you know, some bombs. You can carry bullpups as well, but it's nowhere near as effective as an A7. And as you're about to see here in a second, I'm going to get taken out by a Gepard just because you have to get close and keep your eye on somebody when you're using the bullpup. So that's going to result in me dying. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll catch you next time. Peace, y'all.